Good evening, everyone. It is my privilege to invite one of the pioneers in Indian pediatric gastroenterology, our very own Professor S.K. Yacha, who will be talking on neonatal cholestasis, what is new. He is currently Director Pediatric Superspecialty and Head Pediatric Gastroenterology at Sakra World Hospital, Bangalore. His list of achievements is well known to all of us. So without further ado, I'll invite Professor Yacha. Sir, please.
Greetings from Sakra World Hospital, Bangalore. My fellow pediatricians, pediatric gastroenterologists, I have tailored this lecture on neonatal cholestasis, what is new, for our practice and also for the young talent to initiate research. They may take some ideas from this lecture. What has changed in the last 10 years is screening, diagnosis, outcome, and therapy of neonatal cholestasis. There are novel ideas for screening, also newer entities, diversification, clarity, natural history in terms of diagnosis, and genomics, metabolomics, basic sciences have been added as dimensions in diagnosis and outcome and therapy. Change in clinical approach and priority seems to be and now a changing trend. We know that persistently pale stools, most of the times, is biliary atresia and colorectal cyst. For confirmation by peroperative cholangiogram, maybe by MRCP also. We also have another set of disorders which have pigmented stools with or without family history, pruritus, early decompensation, a non-obstructive entity where you enter into multiple steps. Ultimately, you do genetics in these patients. Around 12% of the disorders with persistent stools may enter into the entity of non-obstructive etiology. Genetic analysis, there are three common types. We know single confirmatory gene testing for known disorders. Index can be affected. SIP screening can be done. It is around 5,000 to 8,000 rupees in our country. Panel testing, clinical exome sequences, mostly done for our patients. Where the setting, clinical setting is known, you restrict the panels to 8 to 10 common disorders. The cost is varying from 20,000 to 25,000. Sometimes you may also need whole exome sequencing, which is for patients who have complex phenotype. Clinically, the doctor is not sure. If panel testing fails, you may have to do this test. This is costing 35,000 to 40,000. Advantages of genetics are mostly definitive diagnosis can be achieved in a period of 4 to 6 weeks. Closure for the physician in terms of the diagnosis, predicting patient's outcome, identification of heterozygous donors prior to OLT. For instance, urea cycle defect, you have to give a part of the liver from the parents, then you have to test them with genetic evaluation. Genetic counseling, antenatal diagnosis, and maybe a remote possibility of gene therapy in future. Now, what has happened recently? Next generation sequencing have been applied in children with neonatal cholestasis. It's a blended protocol where there's a clinical evaluation plus the genetic evaluation. Here in this slide, you can see 125 neonatal cholestasis children. 59% were biliary atresia who were treated by the standard protocol, but there were subjects who were around 50 in number. In these patients, they could do genetic testing detection, and this was around 60%, and indeterminate around 14%. So meaning thereby, these 60% suggest that non-invasive methodology of diagnosing these patients with pigmented stools, only with pigmented stools. Now you can see another one, which is a comprehensive 66 gene cholestasis sequencing panel. The sequencing panel has been applied on around 2,000 samples in USA for genetics. And this panel, gene panel, was neonatal and adult panel for disorders which are unknown, cause unexplained chronic liver disease. And you can see here in this panel, you can see 27% definitive pathogenic mutations were identified, 3.6% are likely pathogenic, and number of large proportion were variants of unknown significance. What is important, those cases who could not be diagnosed by other methods, top 5 genetic diagnoses could be identified, which was Alagille syndrome, PFIC2, PFIC3, alpha-1 antitrypsin, and mitochondrial hepatopathy. There were 26% novel mutations which were unreported in this in the panel till this date. Neurogenetic diseases in last 10 years, what have been identified? You can see over here, we know PFIC 1, 2, 3 have been identified. PFIC 4, 5, and 6. And you can see here all the types, these have cholestasis with a variation in presentation and their genetic defect. What are those? PFIC4 with giant cell transformation, absent TJP2 and claudin 1 on immunohistochemistry and on the biopsy giant cell transformation. And the specific mutation has been identified in them. PFIC5, same way, liver failure, rapid course, high alpha fetoprotein, and they have got a special, what is called the mutation in them. They are absent bile salt excretory protein FXR on the histochemistry on liver biopsy. Similarly, PFIC5, you can see here cholestasis and intractable diarrhea. All these intractable diarrhea, worsening of cholestasis post-intestinal transplant, and you may have absent MY05B or RAB11, and there was specific mutation which has been identified. All these types appear in younger infants, younger children, and also have cholestasis as a common denominator. So there can be some overlap of PFIC with many other disorders. Other disorder which has been identified is USP53 related cholestasis, and you can see here high alkaline phosphatase, sensory neural hearing loss, and intractable pruritus, and liver biopsy complex. All types, rosetting, portal fibrosis, ductal proliferation, giant cell transformation, and the mix of many disorders which may be seen on liver biopsy in these cases. Ultrastructural examination reduced TJP2 and CLDN1 expression. So this is a disorder which has been identified. The phenotypic expression of this patient may be similar to many other disorders, but it is the genotype which identifies these cases. HNF1B mutation that appears like biliary atresia. They have atretic hypoplastic gallbladder and bile ducts, requires Kasai's potentiostomy. But what is the difference? The difference from biliary atresia is there are many other associations along with this biliary atresia-like presentation, and a novel mutation has been identified in this patient. Therefore, cases of biliary atresia may be differentiated, may have sometimes a difficulty in identification, and the mutation may help identification by genetic typing. Neonatal sclerosing cholangitis, one of the important mutations, DCDC2 mutation has been identified. Normal distribution of DC2 protein is in cytoplasm and cilia of cholangiocytes. Function regulates microtubule polymerization. So what we find in this disorder, they have got the features of sclerosing cholangitis and also the mutation of the gene, that is absence of DCD-C2 protein in cilia and accumulation in cytoplasm. Normally in cilia you find presence, and here you find the absence and abundance of this DCD-C2 protein in the cytoplasm. This has been shown in 4 children. Actually, they are consanguineous families, and you can see the 4 children who are affected, all presented with cholestasis and pale stools, all had early cirrhosis and required liver transplantation at different stages. Diagnosis: biopsy, early portal fibrosis, ductal proliferation, tortuous bile ducts, bifibrous and biliary plaques, cholangiogram showing patent, you can see over here in this particular diagram, patent biliary tract, yet having features like biliary atresia or sclerosis. So this is how you can identify by the gene evaluation by doing analysis. Concept: now in terms of screening of cholestasis, concept of integrated neonatal cholestasis card has been developed for India by our group, and you can see here the addition of urine color, 7 stool color not classified in Taiwan card has been introduced, which is for the pigmented category. Excellent inter-item correlation, parents and fellows, and promising news tool for the early referral for the patients in our country with a pressing need for us. It was a multi-center study with a daily group. Outcome of newborn screening for biliary is a new idea. It's a novel actually idea. So what they have done, very huge number of children have been taken, screened for 3 years at different hospitals, and they had different stages of evaluation. Stage 1, where the bilirubin was evaluated at 60 hours, and bilirubin level more than 95th percentile was taken as abnormal. And then at stage 2, children who had less than 12 weeks evaluation, or at 12, not 12 weeks, but actually at 12 days evaluation done. And again, bilirubin levels taken more than 95th percentile. And if in the final evaluation, those children who qualified for stage 1 and stage 2 positivity were actually compared, and evaluation was done for pre-post confirmed biliary atresia group. Screening, sensitivity, specificity, negative predictive value, and reduction in the age of Kasai's enterostomy by 19 days was seen. Very high. You can see the outcomes. Referral time got decreased. Early decrease in bilirubin post Kasai. Time to transplantation free. Survival also increased. So very good analysis, but yet to be reproduced by many other centers. Another important thing, marker, matrix metallopeptide 7 is a marker of fibrosis, and diagnostic accuracy for the biliary atresia is 88%. It is more sensitive than gamma GT as a marker. And the question from this study is, can MMP7 replace biopsy in the long run evaluation of neonatal cholestasis for biliary atresia? Both have accuracy of around 88%. Now you can see the microRNA profiling in biliary atresia. Year after year, these are being identified. And yet the final version not been said, still not clear. It is in evolution, more to come. Therapy and outcome. Therapy and outcome, a very important bile acid synthesis disorders are being recognized more and more in this country. And folic acid has been shown to be very effective as a treatment modality for this disease entity. And you can see 72% response in terms of growth, that is weight and height, both are showing a response to this kind of drug, and improvement in liver function test, and decrease in atypical urinary bile acids. Very efficacious drug at short and long-term follow-up. 28% of them required drug discontinuation or progression of the disease, or they had death. Adverse side effects were not many. Actually, they were all within the limits of treatment. New drugs in cholestasis pruritus management. What are these drugs? Sertraline and 4-phenyl butyrate have been the drugs which have been approved in children for treatment. However, there are many more drugs which have been identified, which have been approved for adults, not still approved for the children. Emerging therapeutic targets are multiple, and this is a complicated diagram. This shows the proteins transporters at different levels for the targets in the hepatocytes, in the cholangiocytes, and in the elastinocytes. And these are being targeted for either understanding a disease or the treatment of various genetic disorders which are associated with cholestasis. Now you can see here 4-phenyl butyrate, a drug which has been tried for progressive familial intrahepatic cholestasis type 2, improvement in septal fibrosis, appearance of BSEP on immunostaining with this particular drug. You can see another in PFIC1, 4-phenyl butyrate, showing the improvement of the symptoms. Before treatment, you can see the scratch marks. After the treatment, improvement in the pruritus, and same way, improvement in other parameters. In nutshell, 4-phenyl butyrate, PFIC2, it may be useful product. Application may be good, but initial reports were encouraging. Now, newer concerns of long-term hepatotoxicity along with rifampicin have been observed. For PFIC1, this drug is not bringing down any improvement in liver function tests or improvement in the liver histology. ASBT, IBAT inhibitors. What are these? ASBT is atypical sodium bile acid transporter, and IBAT is ileal bile acid transporter inhibitor. And these decrease the bile acid pool by interruption of the enterohepatic circulation of the bile. Here, this is the ileum and this is the liver. Bile salts are absorbed, reabsorbed at the ileal level. And one of the promising drugs is maralixibat, is the drug which has been tried in children. This is a placebo-controlled randomized trial on intestinal bile salt transporter inhibitor for pruritus in Alagille syndrome. And these patients had intractable itch, which was refractory to other medical therapy. And this drug is an inhibitor of the ileal bile acid transporter. Attempt as an alternative to surgical diversion. Before you try surgical diversion, this can be used, and also may be possible step prior to liver transplantation. And here you can see in this particular slide, different kinds of drug dosages used, and the total duration of use of this drug was for 13 weeks, observation for another 4 weeks on follow-up. Including the placebo, there were 36 cases for randomized trial. What they found, the study showed ALT, bile acids, and bilirubin reduction was not significantly better in any group over placebo. So that did not improve. Statistically significant decreases were observed with doses of 70 and 140, not more than that. 1 point reduction in pruritus was more common in the drug-treated group versus the placebo. Caregivers, the itch, what is called the index, 65% was the 25%, which is significant, and clinician score also significantly improved. The conclusion of this study, although the pre-specified primary analysis of the itch indices was not at all statistically significant, the data suggests that the drug is safe and may reduce pruritus in Alagille syndrome. So another drug, which is serotonin reuptake inhibitor, there are 20 cases of Alagille syndrome and PFEs where it has been tried, and they include chronic refractory cholestasis pruritus on 2 drugs, UDCA and rifampicin. Pruritus was quantified by using the scale. Responders improvement in score by 3 points associated. There were 70% responders. Serum bile acid concentration did not change significantly after 3 months of therapy. Now you see here, this is the diagram to show you eating scores before and after. Before you can see the level, the numbers are high, and after that the numbers go down. So this was a significant effect as far as this drug is concerned in Alagille syndrome. Messages. What is new in neonatal cholestasis? Very importantly, genetics application becomes important. New and algorithm, unexplored diseases can be identified. With the result, the etiology of NC is shrinking now of the idiopathic group. Diversification in bile acid transporter defects has been identified and sclerosing cholangitis only by use of genetics. Phenotypic expression has come to the fore with genetic expression, with genetic evaluation, and the outcome also becomes clearer with the genetic evaluation. Then further, we find better screening tools shown, although the clinical utility is to be reproduced by other studies. New drug in pruritus cholestasis may replace need for diversion and liver transplantation. And other important two aspects, that is the new presentation of diseases. Now we know that many things can overlap. Even the biopsy, even the laboratory testing can overlap, and it's only genetics which can actually make certain differentiation. So we can use it for the differential diagnosis. Bile acid synthesis defect, as the drug cholic acid has been identified as a very good drug for treatment of bile acid synthesis disorders. My thanks and gratitude to Indian Society of Pediatric Gastroenterology, Hepatology and Nutrition for organizers for this opportunity to talk in this conference. And my special thanks to Dr. Monik Sen Sharma, who has helped me in formulating this talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your excellent deliberation. As always, your lecture has been excellent and so inspiring. Thank you, sir.